constantly talking about the rivers, and where the rivers meet is what we thought of what they think is the Garden of Eden. Yeah. You know, so these, and I keep talking about this land as this ancient place. I mean, the reason why I keep talking about Iraq too, about it as an ancient place, is because my family does this. They're contemporary people living their life. And I say, Uncle, how are you today? Oh, Heather, oh, it's like this and like this and like this, the occupation and like this and like this and like this, but Saddam and like this and like this and this, but the Ottomans and the British and the this and then Nebuchadnezzar and you're all the way up. I'm like, okay, you're like this today because Nebuchadnezzar back in the day did. I'm like that, and then they walk around with that. They all, the communists were talking about when God was a woman, this and that, and what happened in Samaria. You know, I mean, this, as an American, that is a very, you feel this ancient culture coming at you. And I also, part of what I feel is that I carry that. I carry that in my blood. So I wanted that to be present for the audience, viscerally. For them to just walk in and not see, oh, we're in a war zone, this is really bad. For them to walk in and go, whoa, this place, it has something. Like, what is it? I don't know. And they start to take in all this. So that's, the river is part of that, all the layers, the mosaics is part of that. But what was thrilling for me is suddenly I'm presented with these great designers and director with these ideas, and I decide, well, we need some new characters that fit to reference this river, so I go home and write them. You know, and then the play starts changing yet again, and we're on to
another new version. Can you talk a little bit about the abaya?
The abaya I knew I wanted to use because it is the defining black cloak that we think of as all Iraqi women. And as Westerners, we tend to think of that as also their oppression. These are these women covered in these black sheets. And I from being there, from traveling and knowing Iraqis, I also realized it wasn't what we thought it was. It wasn't only this wasn't this, what we think of as a veil, and they're all just covered up in blah, blah, blah. So what I wanted to do with it was let the characters use it usefully, and show us that it has many other, but we take that even more theatrically. So it becomes a prop, it becomes different things. And it works, it sort of works on the audience the way my blonde hair works on the audience. They walk in and they see this woman, and well, that's that black thing, and that's that woman we see on TV, and then, oh, no, it's not that woman we see, you know, and then it just starts to work on the audience, and they go, oh, okay, it's not what we think it is.
Yeah.
There's all these other layers underneath.
And the abaya allows you to change into those 9 different characters.
Yes. Yeah.
Each time you use the abaya, you use a different way for each character. One other thing that I wanted to ask is, the play, when you see it on the page, the play appears to be written as poetry. It's the way the text is broken up. Was that deliberate on your part? Is that the way the editors did it? Because there's one section, there's one person, the doctor, who speaks in complete prose, but everyone else is in a very poetic.
Yeah, I think because it's twofold. I think because I don't speak Arabic, it was a blessing. I think what I can speak perfectly is broken English. I think from growing up with my dad and spending so much time with Iraqis, I can hear Iraqi broken English. And it has an absolute cadence and rhythm. And it's slightly different between what region you're from or what your background is. But it's very specific. And I wanted the sense of that on the page to at least hint toward what you would find if I were speaking. Mm-hmm. And the reason I wanted that to be was that the audience in my play is my sweetheart. Yeah. Which I think is true of most one-person shows. But it's a necessary element in 9 Parts of Desire. I am talking to the audience. The audience tends to be the West. They don't tend to be the West as in you who invaded us, you bad guys, or anything like that, or soldiers or anything. They are you, the beloved friend who is in my living room, whom I'm giving tea and all my innermost to. Some things difficult, some things I'm mad at you about, but we are really, this is a very intimate moment. So the characters are speaking, are desperate to communicate just the right words to make sure the audience gets them. You know, if you've ever talked to a foreigner whose English is not perfect, and they're searching for that exact word, and they're working with you, and they're trying to find it, and they're misusing words, and the way they misuse them is absolutely adorable, and is sometimes more true to if they had the perfect word, you know? And so it's that search and that rhythm that I wanted to leap off the page and hit with all the bad English, so to speak, in it. The doctor was trained in Italy. So she just has a different, she's also communicating about scientific fact.
Yeah.
So what she's in pursuit of is much more linear. So she doesn't have time for
the poetry.
Yeah, and even the American character, who should speak perfect English, is just much more disjointed and unable to finish a sentence than the doctor, who is, you know, a linear thinker.
Very straightforward, and everything goes right to the end of the line with the doctor. Very straightforward. It's fascinating to look at it on the page, and you do, when you're reading it, break it up exactly as it's written on the page, and it causes it causes internal emotional response, even in just the reading of it. I think it's very useful for the person who's going to be performing it after you. Whoever picks it up after you has got that rhythm built in because they see it in the text. That's fascinating. So you have a current piece called Sounds of Design, which is the piece that's going to be showing Tuesday, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in the Johnson Theater. I'll just plug that one more time. With Heather. But can you talk a little bit about how that came about after
Yes,
all
no,
of
that's,
this?
yeah, no, it's impossible to travel with a river for a one-night show. I mean, it's so big, you know, and it's so expensive. So if we're going to go with a river, we sit down for a long period of time, and people wanted this as a one-off. So it came about through that. What I had, though, prior to what you're going to see, was I worked with one musician, an Iraqi-American, who plays santur, which is the hammered dulcimer, and he has a huge jazz tradition, so he plays jazz trumpet. And so we created this kind of version that was as many monologues as I could kind of get in there with his dialogue of the music. We cut out the parts of the play that really needed staging.
Yeah.
That's what we cut. We cut what needed to be staged and what ended up being part of the kind of argument of it. So what we have instead are the pieces that stand alone. We still have the same kind of beginning, middle, and end, but without the staging. But what ends up happening that's really unique is now there was a man on stage. So it's no longer a one-woman show talking about women's lives. It's this male-female dialogue. And the dialogue between music and the rhythm of these words was really interesting. And we thought it was so much fun, we wanted to expand it. So we had an opportunity with Kennedy Center to work on it, expand it, do what we wanted. We added drums, percussion, and oud, which is like a lute, air flute, and female vocals. And the female vocals are really exciting because then we're going to have multiple women on stage. So I can be saying the text and she can be singing. She's a Syrian singer, and she just starts riffing, and it's the spirit of all these women through times back. And so it just becomes this. What's fun about it for me is there is no staging. So it really just becomes the words of the music. Yeah. And it frees us up to do different things with the characters.